Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Thank you very much for coming. I guess you didn't have much trouble finding the address.
Not exactly. I got the address online only, so I just came to the address given there.
Right. So you found the QMath program through Facebook, right?
Yes, so I was browsing for a program for my kid,
Uh-huh.
and then I came across this, and I thought I should go and check it out.
Right. So based on the information that you've given, I have the basic information about Ishan. You're saying he's in third standard right now.
Yeah, he's actually finishing third standard. He'll reach fourth by next year.
Okay, so
Mid of
he's
third
in the
year.
middle of third
Yes.
third standard right now. He must have started it in July this year.
Yes.
Right? I have a few more questions I'd like to ask about his math. And before I explain how this program works, I'd like to know a little more about Ishan.
Yeah, sure.
Can you help me with some questions?
Yes, sure.
Alright, so the first question I have is, how is Ishan in terms of his comfort with math?
Actually, he's very scared of math.
Okay.
He runs away from the subject. Whenever I tell him to study math or do his homeworks, he is very scared. He wants to do other subjects, but math he's very scared of. Also, his marks are very less. So,
How much is it when you said less?
He's in third standard and he's getting below 60. And
Okay.
For a second grade kid to get below 60 according to me is very low.
How does he behave before the exams? Does he prepare on his own?
Not at all. I have to push him so much.
Okay.
I have to sit with him for like the entire period and make him do each sum.
Right. So, based on what you just mentioned, I assume that he does not work on any math problems or competitive exams outside the school textbooks.
Not exactly.
Considering the fact,
I'm fighting hard to get him interested in the school books itself.
Right,
So I haven't
right.
thought of anything beyond that.
So, is that the only expectation you have from a math program, that Ishan gets better at his math and probably starts scoring higher?
Yes, actually, yes.
Right. Have you noticed any other issues in terms of his concentration or mistakes while working on mathematics? Are there like a lot of silly mistakes?
I think it's more of understanding error. Like if he understands something, he does that correctly. But then he doesn't understand properly. Like it takes time to understand stuff, concepts, and then to apply it, to do normal addition, multiplication.
Right,
He takes a
right.
lot of time doing
Right.
that.
How's his speed of calculations?
Very
Let's say additions or multiplication
takes
tables.
a lot of time actually. He doesn't do a mistake when he's done, but he takes a lot of time when he's doing
Right.
his
So,
calculation.
based on what you explained so far, I think Ishan requires some help in terms of understanding the subject and working better. Now, before we jump into talking about QMath, I'd like to tell you why this usually happens. Now, when children are learning mathematics, when they're introduced to mathematics, they start at the same level of understanding about mathematics, but usually this kind of anxiety in terms of the subject is caused because of the way they are introduced to this subject, right? What we observed as a math learning program who's been around for about 5-6 years is children go through some 3 or 4 major transition points when they are learning mathematics. Now, when they start when they're LKG, UKG, they start with number operations, right? They start learning how to count. They start learning how to add simple addition of 1-digit numbers or 2-digit numbers, and then slowly progress into multiplication and division. Now, the usual way teachers, or most of the times parents, teach this is by just telling them a set of rules,
Okay.
and just by giving them repeated exercises or drills. And because of these drills, children start believing it's just a subject with a set of rules, and they start losing interest in the subject. And when they reach their first transition, when they move from second to third grade, there are more complex topics like fractions get introduced.
Okay. Yeah.
And when their base understanding is lower, all they could do is memorize how these particular number operations or arithmetic operations work. They'll find it very difficult to transition into their higher complex subjects. Now, our estimate is about 30% of children start fearing mathematics by the time they reach third standard, and I
I
think
think Ishan is one of them.
Yeah, Ishan probably is one of them at this point. But don't worry, because QMath will take care of his base understanding first. The way we teach mathematics is quite different from a lot of the math learning programs that are available. And like I mentioned, usually this problem crops up because of how they are exposed to mathematics in school, because like there's only one teacher teaching to 20 to 30 children, and younger children require more hands-on learning and hands-on practice, which is something that they don't get. And the teachers deal with learning process the same with all the 20-30 students in the class. And when children are unable to cope up with learning, the only remedy that most of the times that schools or other math learning programs offer is more practice, simply giving more and more homework or more and more drills, and that causes all this issue. We can deal with it. It's not a big problem according to me. We can definitely help you through the process. So let's say this is how Ishan is right now. Probably he has a weaker foundation in mathematics of the lower grade subjects that he has already learned, because of how math was introduced to them. We at QMath will focus on fundamentals. Basically, if you want to build a very strong math foundation and make him stronger in this subject, this is exactly has to be done. Basically, focus on foundation and go beyond the textbooks and help anybody, not just Ishan, and for that matter, learn math through reasoning. Basically, teach them how to ask why before they accept the rules. If you tell me 3 plus 4 is equal to 7, and let's say if I'm a student learning, I should be in a position to ask why is 3 plus 4 7 always. So that is exactly what is needed for him to fall back in love with math. And once that happens, I think he'll be alright. Now, what I can do specifically, and we've already mentioned how schools are different from QMath, right? Let's take a look how this program helps. Usually QMath classes are run for 1 hour a day for 3 days a week.
Just 3 days?
3 days a week is actually a good amount of time to cover the required amount of syllabus. And even in this 1 hour, we don't just stick to the school concepts. We spend about 40-45 minutes on school concepts using workbooks and a few physical objects, and we spend 10 minutes on tab-based activities which are fun and engaging. At the same time, they focus on building aptitude skills, the speed and accuracy of solving problems using various strategies. Third is we have a puzzle card, one every class, which is given to the students, which they take back home, discuss, solve it and come back. We discuss in the class and we spend about 5 to 10 minutes on the discussion. I'll explain how these will be helpful in terms of building a very strong math foundation for students like Ishan, right?
Well, Ishan doesn't really like puzzle cards. Can we skip that part?
See, initially I think he may find it difficult, but I will make sure that he will fall in love with it. I will make sure that he starts enjoying this, because these are not very difficult puzzles that we start with. We start with the ability that Ishan has right now to solve these problems, and slowly we build the difficulty. I'll explain how this works, but if you'd like full benefit of the program, using all components of the program is what I would recommend, and I will make sure that this will not reduce his interest in the program or the subject. That's something I can take care of, so don't worry about that at this point. Now let's take a look at how we teach any concept. Now most of the times when schools are teaching, they start with the abstract format of learning. Let's say for example, here when a fraction is introduced, they simply give the definition of the fraction. Then they tell you that if you have like fractions or similar fractions where the denominator is the same, all you have to do is add the numerators and put the denominators the same, which is a very abstract way of teaching, and children will never figure out why this works. And when they don't understand why this works, the only way they can remember it is by using multiple drills or memorizing or learning by heart, learning by rote. As opposed to that, what QMath does is we first introduce any topic using concrete methods. That is, we have some physical objects that we use for teaching. We have, this is called math box, what you are seeing here. And this has about 15 to 17 math objects, like we call them manipulatives. We use these to introduce any topic, and once they understand it, how the concept works using physical 3D models, then we introduce them with pictorial representation to help them visualize these concepts. They already would have learned it using the 3D method, and then they move on to understanding how this looks like in the 2D format. Then we move into the abstract format. I will show you the example of how it looks like.
So you use this Mathbox manipulative thing for introducing the concept in every class, because Ishan is quite distracted by all these kinds of things. I can guarantee you he will not study if you open this thing in front of him.
Now, no worries about that, because we kind of create a schedule and some level of discipline in the class.
Okay.
It may take about 3 to 4 classes for him to get adjusted to it, but these math manipulatives are used only when a subject or a topic is getting introduced to a student. Right? Ishan may not have to work on it all the time. There'll be other students in the class who may be working on the manipulatives. First 3-4 classes, this is a novelty, and then this is something new that he is attracted to, and there's a possibility of distraction. But we set some classroom rules and we make sure Ishan follows those rules. But you don't have to worry about that. The basic reason why we do this is through this, children will build a very strong understanding of the subject, and they also understand the why a concept works that way or a rule is true about a math concept. And the second idea is they'll be able to apply this concept even outside the textbook questions, wherein on a longer term, he will be able to build the capability of using this knowledge to solve real life problems. Right? So here's how we use our workbooks to teach math concepts. I have an example from fractions that I would like to show you, which is also relevant to Ishan's current grade. Right? Now this is how we introduce this concept. Notice the fact that we're not using the word fraction anywhere when we're starting. We are only introducing it using pictures, and he will do the activities on his own. Wherever he's stuck, I will help him out, and slowly he'll start building the understanding of what fractions are. And after a few activities based on this, we also give him a physical activity. Now, so let's do this activity. Okay. I'd like to show you how this works. These shapes are called fraction shapes, right?
Okay.
How you can see a circle cut into this shape. And can you figure out how many of these pieces are required to make a full circle?
I think you require 3 of these.
Right. So this builds the understanding that if you have 3 of such pieces, it will become a full circle. So if I take just one piece out of 3 pieces, it is 1 stroke 3 or 1 out of 3 or 1 upon 3, however you want to call it, is basically the representation of a fraction. We don't use the word specifically until this point. Here the word fraction means a part of it, like the English word fraction, but not the mathematical concept fraction, and they understand what 1/3 is. And after a few more activities like this, after a few more exercises like this, is when we introduce a technical definition. By the time they reach the technical definition, they know what is a numerator, they know what is a denominator, they know why a numerator is a part of the whole and how it works, and that visualization is in their mind. Right? Now,
it has already started making sense in my mind.
Sounds good. So you can take a look at this whole workbook. I just took some pages to show you this, but you can take a look at this workbook, see all the pages.
Sure.
And also at the end of this workbook, if you notice, there are revision sheets. Now, the revision sheets are helpful in terms of giving more practice, if at all we think it is required. Now, here's how this is like a representation of all the Mathbox objects that we have. Right now we just used the fractions shapes. This, right, a part of this is what we used, the fraction shapes.
Okay.
But as he starts learning more and more concepts, when he's getting introduced to more concepts, we'll use more of these objects to build that kind of understanding of the syllabus or understanding of the concepts. Now, once we do that, we'll also test how much he understood after he finishes a module. There is an assessment that he has to write for that particular module. It's just 10 minutes. And in 10 minutes, we will check if he met all objectives of that module. Did he learn everything that is intended to learn? If there is some struggle in terms of learning, I can review how he has done it. And based on the review, I'll be able to go back and ask him to do a few more activities. Or if there is a gap in his learning of the previous topics based on which this topic has to be learned, then I can go back and correct it. We have a few additional activities or exercises we can do. Now, let's say we're doing fractions for the third standard, and I see there is some misunderstanding about additions, let's assume, or some misunderstanding about multiplications. And if I found that out while I'm working on this, I have a chance to go back and work on those concepts. Go back and help him understand those concepts, ensure that those learning gaps are covered, and come back to these pieces that we spoke about. Now, the best thing about QMath program is every topic starts 2 levels deeper, starting with the concrete method, sometimes starting with the pictorial method, but there are also activities using physical objects, which we call the concrete method, and finally move on to the abstract method. So there is some kind of excitement in learning and a deeper understanding of the concept. Now, when they're learning the subject, we don't directly jump to the abstract method, so they don't get lost in this idea that I have to remember this definition, I have to remember this concept. They learn the concept first, then they get to this idea. And these Mathbox items that I have shown you, the objects that I have shown you, will help in internalizing the concepts, not just memorizing them, but have a good understanding. And also for students like Ishan, who initially are fearing about the subject or slightly worried about learning the concepts, we let them go at their own pace. Let them work slower at the beginning and slowly increase the pace as they start picking up the understanding. For example, let's say if Ishan is able to solve only 3 to 4 problems in a span of 10 minutes, I let him do that for the first 4 or 5 classes, but slowly I make sure that his speed increases. That in a class he'll be able to solve more problems with more accuracy. We'll focus on both accuracy and speed while we are teaching him this. Now, apart from this, we also have tab activities that are used to build aptitude skills. Now, what happens with tab activities is they have specific targets that are set for each activity, and this activity will have 3 levels. We call them the milestones, right? Now, when Ishan is working on these milestones, the best thing that happens is he gets immediate feedback. One, they are like very game based activities, and they get good exposure. Here are some examples of it.
Okay.
Now all Ishan has to do is he has to select the right answer according to him and click the submit button. And this is another example. These are for different grades, so don't worry that these are not the exact same questions that Ishan will face.
I was about to say Ishan will not be able to do all this.
Right. To start with, he'll not have these exact questions. He'll have questions that are as per his grade to begin with, and slowly the difficulty level will increase. Right here, for example, this one builds the observation and judgment ability.
Okay.
Now, this improves multiplication and visualization skills. For instance, here he'll be able to understand 5 4s are 20 and how it is represented.
Why don't you use 5 cross 3?
That is a very abstract form of teaching, and if you only use that form, 3 cross 5 is equal to 15 or 4 cross 5 is equal to 20, he will be forced to memorize it. Okay. Without forming the understanding of why is 4 5s are 20, how is it represented. For example, here 5 groups of 4 hearts is making a 20. Alternatively, he will also be able to understand 4 groups of 5 hearts can also look like this within this exercise somewhere else. Now, when he made that distinction, he will have a very clear understanding that multiplication is repeated addition. Right?
Yeah, makes sense.
These kind of ideas are naturally thought of when children are doing these type of activities, instead of simply showing them the numbers and saying 3 5s are 15. Now, here's a tab activity you can do. Probably you'll get a better idea of how it works in the classroom. Take about 3 minutes, do this activity, then we can go ahead and discuss about the program.
Yeah, sure.
Now, the best thing about these activities are they are gamified, right? They're very fun, and children generally like electronic gadgets and screens or vibrant things with these colorful objects on them. So there will not be a fear of working on it. They will start enjoying while working on these activities. And these activities have a specific time. So there is some amount of pressure to work within time, and they'll be able to solve these specific questions and come up with solutions. So every activity has specific amount of time to work on. It's only 3 minutes, and within 3 minutes they have a certain number of questions that they have to answer. And because of that, there is some amount of pressure to perform while getting the answers right. So that builds the speed and accuracy over a period of time. And every time they answer a question, they immediately know whether their answer is right or wrong. Only that much. So when they know their answer is wrong, then they start thinking why this is wrong. And this also helps them improve their speed and also accuracy part of it. And to make sure, for children who probably fear math, we've built in these story editions, where after they complete a set of activities, there is a little bit of a story that they can watch for 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, which is kind of a reward for them for completing those activities.
Ishan loves all this kind of activities in TAB.
Really?
Yeah.
So probably he'll enjoy this too. And the puzzle cards that you were initially talking about.
Sorry, I just had a question for the TAB.
Yeah.
Can we get that for home as well? Like, can I get the TAB activity for home as well, so that Ishan can keep doing that?
No. So they have specific objectives that we want to meet, and we don't want them to spend too much time on the tab either.
Okay.
10 minutes in each class is sufficient to build those skills. The way these activities are designed, you will know the progress that he's making through it on a regular basis. Apart from the in-class activities, we have some at-home activities also to build arithmetic operational skills, etc. I'll tell you about those in a bit, right? And these are the puzzle cards that we were talking about initially. I'll show you a couple of examples so you know how they look like. I understand you said he may not like it. Usually these puzzle cards are divided into 3 types of puzzles, right? One are based on their spatial ability or geometrical ability. The other is their arithmetic operations or number sense. And third are logical and deductive reasoning skills. Now, for example, this is based on the geometrical and spatial ability. Say move 1 matchstick to form 2 squares, right? We're not saying you should come up with an answer right now, and there could be multiple right answers to this. Ishan gets a good 47 hours to work on this because I give the card to him in this class. He will go home, work with you, work with his friends. He can discuss it with everybody. If nothing works out, you can also see a hint in the Q Parent app. We have an app to keep the parents informed. You can download it from either the Play Store on your Android or on the App Store on your iPhone if you have, whichever you're using. And you get a hint. Using the hint, you can help him solve the first few cards, and slowly he builds that ability himself. Now, once he comes back, I'll have a discussion as to how he solved it, right? Here's another example. This is for slightly higher grades, and this is based on arithmetic operations, right? The addition and subtraction ideas. And here's one which is based on logic and spatial ability both. Now, these kind of activities will help him get engaged with math as a concept. He will get the idea that math is not just a set of formulae. There's also math outside textbooks, and this develops reasoning ability. Here, so you can solve a couple of more puzzle cards. These are the examples. This is how it looks like. So every day, so when Nishan comes back from a class, ask him what's the puzzle card he got, so you can see it. And you'll also be able to see a picture of it on Q Parent app when he gets this home, right? And the benefit is, this is like an opportunity to apply the concepts that they already learned from the school and solve various problems and think outside the box. They are going to be they'll start with the level at which Ishan is based on his grade, and if he's able to solve more and more cards, we'll slowly increase the difficulty level of the cards. That way we make sure that he's progressing in terms of his problem solving skills. Now let's say he's not able to solve a few cards. It's okay, we will then lower his difficulty level so that we build his confidence slowly and then increase the difficulty level again. So this is what I was telling you when we said we will take care of it, don't worry. He will finally start enjoying solving these problems. And this unstructured amount of time, right? You're not under pressure to work in 5 minutes or 10 minutes to solve these problems. Once you look at the problem, you have approximately 2 days to think about it at the back of your mind. So it removes the pressure of solving, it removes the anxiety, yet there is a learning element involved in it. And that is going to be helpful. Okay. And also we asked them to look for multiple approaches while solving the problems. That way they'll start enjoying solving more and more math problems. Now, this is something I was telling you about earlier. We have at-home activities as well. There is a website called student.qmath.com. You will get the credentials to log in once you enroll Ishan into the program. There are 3 different components available on this. The first is called a math gym. This improves his ability to add, subtract, multiply and divide using 2-digit numbers or single-digit numbers, and that improves his speed and accuracy. Then there is another piece called concept revision. You can use it to test his ability in specific school-related topics. You'll have to ask me, or if Ishan asks me, I can create these exercises and you can have him take them at home. And lastly, the Olympiad Prep Pack is for somebody who would like to prepare for competitive exams or who wants to specifically work on their ability and knowledge piece of it. Right. For Ishan, I think I would recommend to start with Math Gym, and concept revision is something I can give him as and when required. Olympiad Prep Pack is very seasonal. Like, we start around August and it's only available till the end of the year or the beginning of the next year.
Do I have to pay something else?
No. These are all inclusive in the cost that you're paying for the program.
Okay.
You don't have to pay anything extra for any of these activities, and none of them will take more than 10-15 minutes a day when you're practicing it, and they're not mandatory as such. But if you're doing the mock tests, they may take up to 1 hour because they are mirrored after the actual Olympiad tests that are conducted by various organizations. Right. Now, here's how the login works. I will help you with the credentials once you enroll. And this is an example of how we help him build his conceptual understanding or test his conceptual understanding. So for every topic, we give him 10 questions and 15 minutes to answer. They can be done at home. You can supervise or you can just ask him to log in and do it. And like, these are example questions that you can see. When they finish it, you get to know how much did they score. And I will have an opportunity to review those answers. And if, let's say, there are too many errors, I will know how to handle it. And then we go back and work with what I told you as catch-up packs, right? Here are some additional details of how these work. So the catch-up packs that I mentioned about are some additional resources that I have. I can either give them to work at home or I'll make him do it in the class based on the kind of support he would require. And this will help me assess where will he require help. This is the example that about the catch-up packs. This is how it looks like. So let's assume, based on our conversation, you're saying Ishan currently has some fear of the subject, and so in the first 3 months, my main focus will be in helping him come out of that fear.
Okay.
Right? Break that inertia and help him start believing in himself and start attempting every problem that he faces without fear. I'm not saying he'll be able to solve all of those problems, but he'll start facing them. He understands that mistakes are okay, and through those mistakes he will start learning. And after about 4 to 6 months from the time that we start, you can clearly see that he will start solving all the math problems that you're giving him, regardless of the amount of time he takes, and he will kind of enjoy solving more and more math problems. He will reduce that anxiety, and he will do his homework on his own, etc. And over a period of time, you will also start seeing an improvement in his overall performance, school marks, or the ability to solve competitive exam-based questions, etc. But again, this is a long-term commitment because first 3 months will take at least for him to make comfortable working with this program. So, and all this happens because in QMath classes, we are like giving specific personal attention because the batch size is always 6 and not beyond that, and there is individual attention given. In Ishan's case, it is very much required for the initial few months at least until he becomes independent. And if, let's say, he's not able to solve, we'll still encourage the efforts he's putting in to solve so that he's motivated to solve more problems. I will personally look after that requirement. And this allows him to learn from mistakes. If there are mistakes, instead of directly telling him, no, this is wrong and you made a mistake, we tell him this is wrong, can you figure out why this is wrong? And help him guide through the process to get to the answer himself. And that process would help him get a better understanding of the subject.
I think for Ishan, it will be better if you tell him the mistakes because he is not a person who can. It will take a lot of time actually.
That initially it is probable, and usually these mistakes or errors happen because their understanding is incorrect. And to correct this understanding, if we're guiding them, let's say if you made a mistake in multiplying, coming up with a multiplication answer, if we are able to guide him through why that answer is wrong instead of directly telling him this is wrong and this is the right answer, he'll remember that process and then he can replicate it while he's solving other problems. That kind of builds the ability. Initially it may take time, like you said, but that's okay, because over a period of time the speed at which he's solving those problems will increase, right? We can frequently connect with each other, check how his progress is, and see if we have to make any modifications in the way I am teaching him. So that's not a problem. And the most important thing, I think this is something you should also be doing, is never say that he's slow or he fears math in front of him. Like, this is kind of putting a label on it, and then they start believing it is true. And in a QMath class we never do that. We make sure that we're not labeling the kids. We're always encouraging the effort rather than saying, oh, you're a smart boy. We'd say that's great work that you have done. We always give importance to the effort that they're putting in, and then also praise the outcome that has come through, right? I have a very quick testimonial I'd like to show you.
Okay.
So I am confident that one, I can definitely help Ishan fall in love with this subject, and also we make sure that over this period of 9 to 12 months we can make him better thinker and a problem solver, and then that also cascades on his learning of other subjects, not just this. And in a longer term he'll be more successful in his school and other activities that he will do. So let's take a look at what could be done in the next 3 to 6 months to help Ishan. So we create a customized learning plan for every child who joins a QMath class. So initially you said he has the fear of math. That is what I will be focusing on as my second priority, as long as the concepts are concerned, because you are probably enrolling him in the month of November or the beginning of December. Our schedule wise, these are the two topics that we have to work on.
Okay.
We will start with these topics, but I'll have special attention to him in terms of helping him remove that fear of math. And over the period of next 4 to 6 months, we will move on to these school concepts according to my schedule. And the last 7 to 12 months, this is the topic I'll be working on. Do you find any specific concerns with a concept or a module in his school? Maybe I can include that in his first 3 months plan.
I think he is really, like, fraction was the thing he was finding very difficult.
I will include that in my plan then. I will also include fractions in this plan. And but one thing I'd like to specify here is that the effort required for us to see some results is going to be from all the three of us. Ishan has to put in at least 50% of the total effort needed in terms of attending these classes on a regular basis. Because if you have breaks in between, there is a possibility that you lose that momentum of learning. And whatever activities that are given in the classroom should be completed by him. It's my job to make sure I'm motivating him to do that and making sure he's completing them. But if, let's say, there are puzzle cards that are given home, he must attempt them. And if there are at-home activities like math gym that can be taken every day, he should be able to take them more frequently. I'm not saying every day is a must, but doing them at least 3 to 4 days in a week is going to be very helpful. And as a parent, my request is to you is monitor his progress more frequently. Download this app once you enroll him into the program. Let him do the at-home activities. Whenever you want him to work on concept revisions, let me know. I can create those exercises. And initially for the first 5-6 months, I will set up parent-teacher meetings every month. Please make time and come to them. You can come along with Ishan, or you can send his father. Probably we can have a detailed conversation about it. But after the initial 4 or 5 months, we understand how everything is going, then we can reduce the frequency of these meetings and make it once every 2 months or 3 months based on your availability and the requirement. Now, as a teacher, I will ensure that his learning plan is personalized and is getting modified every 2.5-3 months to suit his learning requirements. There will be targets set for the number of activities to be completed or the behavior to be changed in the classroom, and I'll monitor that and ensure it changes over a period of time. they'll, like I mentioned earlier, if there are errors, if he's stuck, I can guide him through. I'll give him the right direction, and I will also make sure he's putting in enough efforts in the classroom to complete the curriculum activities, right? And I also spoke about the PTMs earlier. I'm confident that if we can follow through this process for the next 5 to 6 months, you will have definite improvement in terms of his attitude towards the subject, and also performance will be better. Probably by the time he reaches this year's final exams, you can see some kind of improvement, right? Now, any questions that you have based on what we discussed?
Well, I just have one question. So I have already discussed the fee with the team.
The QMath team
Yes.
informed you about the fee, okay?
Yes. But I wanted to ask you, like, this all looks very good. But I think it's too high for a third grade kid. For a 8th grade kid or something, I'm okay paying that much. But for a third grade kid, I think it's too much for a third grade kid.
Right. So, why do you think that it's high for a third grade but it's okay for an 8th grade?
Because that is how the tuition teachers in our locality charges. Like, she charges 4,000 for all the subjects in 8th grade, but she charges only 1,000 for a second grader or third grader.
Right, I understand. So you are comparing us with the tuition, and that's why you think our fee is higher, is it?
Well, yes.
So there are a couple of things to consider here, and probably this has become a norm because everybody is doing it. Higher fee for higher grade and lower fee for lower grade. Now, if you look at the QMath program, the amount of effort required to teach younger kids, in fact, is higher than teaching higher grade kids. And the amount of effort that is put in by the teacher in terms of time remains the same, whether I'm teaching an 8th grader or a 3rd grader. Secondly, all the material that we provide, like your workbooks or the maintaining that profile of a student and constantly updating the progress to you through the technology, etc., and these puzzle cards that we share you, etc., are all inclusive in the fee that you're paying. The elements that we use are exactly same no matter which grade we are talking about. The amount of effort put in by the teacher is going to be the same. So the program fee that we charge is constant across the grades. We don't differentiate based on the grades that we are teaching. That is one thing. Another thing that you should also look at is when the tuition teachers charge 4,000 for X number of subjects or 1,000 for X number of subjects, they'll not be teaching all subjects all days. They'll focus on specific subjects on specific days. Overall, the amount of time that they're spending with the child in tuition is the same. Now, if you consider the fact that time is money, and you are spending that money for the amount of time put in by the teacher and the effort put in by the teacher, I don't think there's a difference. Now, one other difference that you should also look at is tuitions are, in most of the cases, repetition of what is being taught in school. Simply, school teaches a concept and tuition helps revise the same concept or do the homework, right? But here the focus is more on changing the way children think, changing the way that they're approaching the subject and building a stronger foundation. Now, considering all those facts, I definitely think the fee is justified. And I have a benefit for you though. If at all you want to enroll for 3 months, the cost can seem higher if you compare it, if you calculate it on a monthly basis. Our monthly fee is about 5,999. 3 months fee is 5,999. So per month it will cost you approximately 2,000. But if you're enrolling for 6 months, your monthly expense will come down to 1,800. Because then it's only 10,799 that we're charging in Bangalore. And if you are paying for 1 year, it will further come down to around 1,700, I guess, approximately 20,399 divided by 12. So you can choose a higher tenure to minimize the amount of money that you're spending on a monthly basis. That way, right? Effectively, each class will cost you in the range of 150 to 166 rupees, and that's far lesser than what we spend on snacks if we go out. Any other questions that you have about the program?
No, but I would want to discuss it with my husband. Can I bring him to talk to you as well?
Right. In fact, I spoke to him when you submitted this request, and he said he's not free to come this weekend.
Yes, that is.
Sure. We can meet again. But can we start his classes immediately?
Well, I will have to talk to him. Can we have that discussion first and then get Ishan admitted?
Okay, no problem. So based on what you explained, I believe Ishan would require some help, and the sooner we start, the better it is. For you, I'd like to offer something. I'll start his classes immediately without you paying.
Okay.
Probably let him start the coming Monday for the first. Let him attend at least 3 classes.
Okay.
In the meantime, your husband and you can have a discussion. You probably can talk to Ishan as well as to how these classes are running. Then we can have a conversation as to when you can enroll him.
That sounds
Right.
great.
You'll also get an understanding of how he's enjoying, or what he has to say about the classes. We will start that from Monday.
Monday, yes.
So I will order his workbooks, etc. Can you start sending him from Monday?
Yes. He comes back from school at 2:30. He's particularly he doesn't have any classes after that. But he goes out to play around 5 to 6. But I can adjust it according to your class.
What time does he like attending a class if there's a math class?
So I think he is very attentive during that period. 4 to 5 is his most attentive time.
Sure, no problem. I have a Monday batch which repeats, the same batch repeats on Wednesday and Friday.
Okay.
From 4 to 5.
Okay.
I can put him in that slot. We will see how it is working out for him. I have another batch running on the same days, but starts at 5:30 in the evening, goes on till 6:30.
Okay.
We'll see whichever one is working out for him. But initially, then I'll start his classes from Monday.
Monday 4 o'clock.
Yeah, we'll have these trial classes started from Monday. And probably by Wednesday or Friday, after you ask him, speak to him, speak to your husband, you can confirm the enrollment as to how many months you want to enroll initially.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming here. Have a good day.
Thank you.